Hello all, welcome back to our channel. I hope you are all doing good as we are doing for AWS series. So today we are going to discuss about traditional IT versus cloud computing. So how this traditional IT works earlier with respect to that procuring the servers, installing the servers, upgrading the servers, and setting our applications, and also for deploying our application and running our applications. With respect to cloud computing, how this has been evolved and how are we going to procure with respect to for cloud computing and how easy we are be using right now for the procuring servers, installing and deploying our application and using our application in the current market. So I have collected some of the points. So in case of anybody asked, maybe if you are going for any kind of interview or maybe so what is the use of cloud computing and what are the benefits and how this cloud computing got evolved as part of this? What are the advantages uh, before IT and when cloud computing come into picture? So you can get some understanding. I collected for around 10 points. Maybe it's not only for those things. Apart from that, we have a lot of advantages, and you can go ahead and understand this point. Later, then we can, if you want to learn more things also, you can elaborate according to this point and you can go ahead and understand or maybe you can learn from the AWS official documentation. So to understand this concept generally you can maybe you can go through these points so that you can get some kind of overall idea. I hope it is clear. Let's get into this video to understand what are the those 10 points while we are going for while we are using for the cloud computing in the current market, right? Okay, let's go to this point and understand. Okay, so as I told you, the cloud computing lost uh, almost for around 10 years, right? Has been evolved in a rapid way. So there are multiple service provider, which means from the cloud service providers in the market. But especially for there are three vendors right now: AWS, Azure. AWS is from Amazon, Azure is from Microsoft, and GCP is from Google, right? So these are the major cloud service provider which is occupied almost most of the market. But out of three, so AWS is the more market which is almost covered most of the companies or maybe for most of the markets, and followed by Microsoft Azure and followed by Google Cloud. Okay, so I would like to maybe I would like to tell you for if you want to learn any one of the cloud, maybe cloud is the concept you have to understand. Once you understand the concept, you can learn any kind of vendor or maybe any kind of service provider cloud platform. So I would like to start maybe if you are the fresher or maybe you are studying in a college or maybe if you want to transition from the other domain or maybe for the other stream into cloud, you can start with AWS followed by Azure and GCP and so on. Okay, so let's get into this point to discuss about each and every point to understand more about what is cloud and how are we using that cloud and what are the advantages comparing with traditional IT and for the cloud computing. Okay, I took the first topic or first point in this topic. Okay, cost model, right? Traditional IT, right? What we have means before cloud. So now at the time of after means during the cloud. Okay, so traditional IT in the sense the earlier, which we have not adapted for cloud computing, right? So high upfront investment in hardware, which means that so we will be focusing for capital expenditure. Okay, always we need to focus for procuring the servers, CPU, RAM, other infrastructures. Everything should be we need to plan accordingly in order to get those things right. So when we are talking about cloud, right? So pay as you go model, which means pay only for what you use. For example, you are running on applications. The application having 10 GB of RAM. Uh, 1 trillion of 1 TB, okay, for storage and for processor, or maybe for uh, this kind of this kind of requirement, if you want to use that, what you need to do, you can no need to purchase the machine or maybe the system immediately, right? So when your user grows, maybe for your application launch, after that maybe for starting time less user, then as the site or maybe as the application grows, so based on the grow, you can go ahead and procure the servers or maybe use the services from the cloud provider, and you can scale it accordingly. That's what it is saying. Based on the usage, based on the work, or maybe based on the utilization which you have used from the cloud service provider, you can pay as much as what you have used it. So that's what it is trying to say. Cost model. First topic is cost. Okay, this is one of the big advantage. Next thing is next point would be infrastructure setup. In traditional IT, physical server setup takes weeks, months, right? So when you want to set up a data center for your applications or for your company, so it's not like for easy thing. Okay. So you have to, as I told you in the earlier, maybe you can go ahead and watch for the earlier video, which you have a detailed discussion. So you have to find out the infrastructure, you have to find out the place, and you have to set up an infrastructure. Then you have to procure all the hardware components and necessary hardware and software components, install it, and you have to, on top of that, you have to run your applications. Okay, this is how it has happened for traditional IT. When we talk about cloud, right? So cloud is nothing but the service which is already available, and easily you can go ahead and the service, whatever the service you want, based on your requirement, based on your application nature, you can easily procure from the AWS or maybe from the cloud service provider, and you can set up immediately and you can start using that. That's what it is saying, the infrastructure setup. Okay, next point would be scalability. This is one of the important concept, right? So points, scalability. So in traditional IT, what we have used, since I have worked for many projects in our organizations, both in traditional as well as for our cloud platform also. So in traditional IT, we have limited by available hardware, right? Okay, which means that, see, once you have purchased, what you have to do, you have to use that hardware or software or maybe the resources which you have procured already. So in case if you want to scale, what you need to do, again, you need to go and purchase, shut down your application, install that or upgrade that, and you start your application. These are some of the challenges. So just I will walk you through so that you can understand, maybe in the real time scenario, you can go through that accordingly. You can, in case if you are going for any interview or maybe if somebody asked also, so what you are doing for the cloud computing and what is the difference from traditional IT into cloud, so that you can realize that accordingly you can answer. So that's what I am just comparing it, so that it will be easy for to understand and give your suggestion. Okay, so for the cloud we have auto scaling based on the demand. Yes, so you don't need to wait for, okay, so once your application used fully for the resources, no need to wait for getting the resources, right? So it has been auto scaled automatically based on your configuration. That's why cloud computing more useful. Okay. So the next point would be maintenance, right? So in a traditional IT, what you have done, so your team has to manage update, patching, downtime, right? So obviously, so see, this is our own data center. Everything would be under our control. So you have to take care for your managing the updates, patching the necessary system patches, and for downtime if you want to manage downtime also. Okay, in case if you want to do downtime and uptime. So with respect to cloud provider handle infrastructure maintenance. See, so when you are procure for all the setups from the cloud provider, you no need to bother anything, since the cloud provider manage all those things, all the underlying infrastructure, necessary patches, upgrade, and for downtime, uptime, everything would be handled by service provider. So you need to focus your application. That's what it is means that. Okay, so the next point would be accessibility. Okay, so the traditional IT are restricted to on-site or VPN access. In a cloud, global access over the internet from anywhere, which means that, see, for in an accessibility, but you have to go to that, or maybe you have to connect with your VPN network in order to access your data center or access your application, or maybe for any kind of action you need to perform it. But in a cloud, right, you have to access by clicking that button. Simply, you can get it for the resources, or maybe very very fast way, or maybe for in a simple way, you can get the services yeah, through internet, and you can start working on it. That's what it is actually. That much easy. Accessibility is very easy. Okay. Then next point is okay, sorry. Fifth point, accessibility. Sixth point is time to market. Okay. So, time to market. This is also one of the important point when we are talking about cloud computing over the traditional IT. In traditional IT, yes, if you see slow to launch new application, yes, obviously you have to set up all the prerequisites before get into that application has to be built and deploy into that your data center. But that's why it is taking time. But when you're talking about cloud, right, it's, it's kind of rapid deployment. So you have to in a single click or in a few clicks, you can get the services, whatever the application which you have deployed, you can develop, you can deploy that over the infrastructure or over the services. You can launch your application very immediately. So that's what it's a simple way. In nutshell, we can say that yes, traditional IT which will be slow, and cloud platform which will be rapidly very fast. Okay. The next point is security. Security is one of the important things also. Yeah, there are some advantages, advantages there, but when you talk about traditional IT, you have full control but high responsibility, which means that so when you are talking about your own traditional IT, okay, so everything would be comes under your control. So all the infrastructure will be sitting up on your data center, and you have to take care for all upgrades, patching, downtime, uptime, and vulnerability scanning. Everything should be taken care by your team. So when we talk about cloud, right, it is shared responsibility matter with based on the agreement or based on the built-in tools and compliance, right? So it will be some of the actions or some of the responsibility will be handled by cloud service provider. Some of the responsibility handled by uh, project or maybe for your organization. Okay, that is how the security means. Okay. Now, next thing is the resource utilization. Okay. So when we talk about utilization, so for the traditional IT, you have to be over provision servers often to wasted resources. But in a cloud, optimized resources dynamically, no over provision needed, right? So there are a lot of concept will be there when we are talking about this resource utilization. So there are reserve and for pay you as you go model, and the um, on-time usage or one-time usage, or maybe for full usage. Many concepts which will be available. So when you want to learn many things, or when you are going to use that services, you can understand all the things. But in this point, you can understand. So if you talk about this traditional IT, so we don't know exactly maybe for our application, right? Starting, maybe we think that okay, we develop our application, we'll deploy our application for customer usage. For example, in a few days, maybe your customer may can grow, or maybe they can reduce also. Maybe there are no more customer also. But at the time of launch, right, you have set up all the infrastructure, underlying infrastructure, everything will be ready. So after launching, so maybe if you have the more user, then they can use that for resource accordingly. If you have less user, but it will be still the same resource will be utilized. But if the resources is not utilized, it will be those resources will not be in use, so that it will be waste for us. So but in a cloud, right, we don't want to use that, right? So it can be scaled, or maybe it can be utilized dynamically based on your customer needs, or maybe based on your traffic. That's what it means, that resource utilization, which means you can save the cost. There's no need to pay it, or maybe no need to get the resources upfront, or maybe for in advance, in order to use that in a market, right? So this is the resource utilization. Then we have capacity planning. Okay, in a traditional IT, most of the time, if you see, we have to procure our resources, or maybe for the necessary hardware in advance. For example, must forecast and buy hardware in advance, which means that so we don't know exactly what time this customer can grow and our application will grow. Okay, so for that time, right? So we need to plan accordingly. For example, I have launched for two products now. So in future, maybe I need to launch for another 4 more products in an industry scenario. Okay. So what we will do basically every 3 months we need to do from some kind of capacity planning. Still we are doing, for example, some of the application which will be running our own data center. What we will do, this will be everything will be our control. In our organization, we have separate team to manage all the resources. And what we will do, we will raise a request from our application side, and in order to do the capacity planning, it will go to the storage or maybe necessary team, capacity planning team, capacity team. So they will raise invoice and get the things done. Also get the procurement or maybe the necessary hardware. And on top, after that, it will get deployed before the application gets deployed into production. So similar way, that's what we are will be into that earlier days or maybe traditional IT. When we talk about cloud, right, it is on-demand capacity, scale based on the real-time needed. Okay, so you no need to do kind of immediately or maybe in advance, no need to buy any kind of hardware resources or maybe any resources with respect to your application. What it will do, maybe what you can do, so you can launch your application based on your necessity or based on your growth. You can go ahead and you can go ahead and request from the service provider so that it will be immediately you can immediately it will be provisioned and you can use that service accordingly. Okay. So the next point is disaster and recovery. Okay, in traditional ID requires dedicated DR setup and site. Okay, so what you have to do in a production environment is not like that. You have to run only for the production infrastructure in a single way, right? In a one VM or maybe for the production site itself. You need some kind of dress rehearsal, which means DR setup as well. So in case of if you want to switch your request from production to DR, or maybe if you want to do kind of maintenance, your switch during the maintenance case, you have to switch from your production request into production request into DR request. Okay, or in case of you do any kind of address rehearsal yearly once or yearly twice, what you have to do, you have to switch all your requests from production request into DR request. Or in case of any backup and restore or any maintenance, you have to shut down your or you have to switch your production request customer request into DR request. That time your production will be idle and DR will be serving. Okay, so these are the some of the general concept which you need to understand from industry perspective. So basically, these are the points you have to understand, right? So that is how in there what we have to do. We have to set up production as well as DR. In case of anything goes wrong in production, we have to switch our request all the customer requests into DR so that DR will serve it. Okay, that is the thing. In a cloud, built-in backup recovery and geo-resiliency options. Okay, so which means that so we have a kind of setup. Everything will be there, built-in backup, and in case of anything is occurred, we have geo-resiliency or recovery. So in case of anything goes in the production or maybe anything problem, the other availability zone or other region will be take over the request, and from there it will be surveyed. So the with respect to their the data segregation or data sync, everything will be handled based on the configuration setup or based on the application setup, which depends on your application nature. The configuration which you have provided. Accordingly, the data would be segregated or data would be sync up based on the request. It will be a single, maybe multiple availability zone or maybe multi-region concept. That's what it's kind of geo redundancy, so that your application when application goes down any one of the availability zone or any one of the region, the other region or other availability zone will take over and it will be served accordingly. Okay, these are the 10 points. Maybe we have a lot of points. In case if you want to discuss many things, we can go ahead and discuss. But right now, these are the points I would like to convey to you guys. So maybe I hope you it will be understand. You can go through this point and make sure maybe you can realize all those points. In case of anybody, in case of if somebody want, or maybe in case if you want to explain those things for some other person, or maybe in a forum or any kind of place, so you can realize these points and make sure that understand those concepts. So you can go ahead and explain that. In case of interview perspective, also if somebody in case if you want to answer the questions, so what is the traditional IT versus cloud computing? What are the things we have achieved? So why we are going for cloud computing? So you can tell, you can explain whatever we have discussed here in an elaborate way, so that you can understand. Okay, so these are the these are the real time scenario. These are the real time pictures in traditional or maybe in a cloud computing can be used in the industry perspective. I hope it is clear. Hope you liked it. I would okay. So hope you understand all those concepts. I would like to ask for, okay. So kindly, in case if you have not subscribed, kindly help us to subscribe, and so that it will motivate me to create this kind of content, or maybe in future. Okay, we will come back with the next video in future. All the very best. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.